It's the 40 days after Easter, and Christ is alive. Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. And here we are by the empty tomb. Isn't it awesome? Awesome season of the church right now. And we're hitting a story about fishing. So, many fishing stories in the Bible. Jesus set up shop quite a bit by the Sea of Galilee or the Sea of Tiberias, whatever you want to call it. So I've been thinking about fishing this week, and lo and behold, I bumped into two live fisher people this week. And so the first one you just met, Michelle. Isn't that awesome? So literally, Michelle, Trinity, and John are going fishing literally today. Is that awesome or what? So then, the wheels started turning, and then I roped her in for a time for discovery. So that is so awesome. But then, get this. I was visiting someone this week, and I got permission from the family to share this story. I was visiting one of our neighbors here at church, Reynold Krula, and I was there with Reynold. He is 95 years old, and his daughter, Deb. And we were just talking, reminiscing about life. And Deb was talking about all the work that Reynold did to get food on the table for the family. And South Omaha guy worked in the packing house. I wonder if he would have known you, Bob, or others. I just thought of all the different people that have come through this church and South Omaha churches that worked in the packing house and still do today. So, and then he had another job, I can't quite remember, and the third job was commercial fisherman. Isn't that amazing? And so Deb, the daughter, was talking about winter nights, and her dad would be mending the nets, the fishing nets. And then she started talking about all the different kinds of nets. And there were trammel nets. Anybody ever heard of trammel nets before? And there were hoop nets. And she was describing hoop nets to me. So when I got back to the office, the first thing I did was I went online and I had to look up trammel nets and hoop nets. So there I was on the U.S. Fishing and Wildlife website, reading more about these different kinds of nets. And then lo and behold, I got a text from Deb, who had just talked to her brother in California, and the brother was sending videos about fishing. So then I had to do research for my sermon, so I was watching fishing videos. And the videos featured hoop nets. So let's take a look at hoop nets. There you can see it. So this is from my phone. So I'm like watching a video, and I'm like, oh, that looks like a good one. I just kept trying to snap screenshots as I was watching this video. And so they're really, I'm sure there's lots of YouTube channels. Maybe even Mike Charleston has his own fishing. I think he has his own YouTube channel too, fishing, etc. So this one is kind of funny. I was trying to place the accent. It's like an Arkansas accent. So he's a good fisherman. He's teaching his experiences and how he fish and all this stuff. But the key thing pertinent to the conversation we were having was these hoop nets. And that's like, there's like an outer hoop. And then there's another hoop inside that. So I noticed there was another whole video called Storing Your Nets. And can you imagine trying to store a hoop net and then bringing a hoop net in from the river? But the outer net has bigger holes and in the mesh, and then they get smaller so the fish can swim in to the bait. She talked about bait being cheese, not gummies, cheese, old cheese, in fact, moldy cheese sometimes. So the fish can swim in, and then they can't get back out the mesh. So then you bring, it's not reeling. It's not reeling, is it? You're probably going to use a reel, right? You're going to cast out. And these you set and then bring in. So watching the video was very dramatic because anything there. And then you get to the last little hoop and it'd be like, oh, oh yeah, there's fish in there, and they'd be flapping around. So let's just take a look at some more fish net. Oh, did you already go through some? Okay, because I was thinking she was toward the end. Okay, yeah, you see a whole bunch of hoop nets there. Okay, just don't want to lose track there. And then, so this is main guy, and then I'm going to refer to her later. So she's holding up some fish. And then did you show the fish? And I'll share this now. I was going to wait till the end. But I just love this expression, and I hadn't heard it in a long time. They caught themselves a mess of fish. Have you heard that term, mess of fish? Oh, it's been a while since I've heard that term. A mess of fish. They caught themselves a mess of fish. So isn't that wondrous? 2 fishing stories the week that we're doing that. And is there anything you guys would like to throw out there about fishing, memories of fishing, ways of fishing? Anything you want to share? Oh, Beth? Okay, fly fisherman. And that reminds me of a river runs through it. And he was a Presbyterian pastor also, who was a fly fisherman. Mm-hmm. Columbia into the Pacific. Okay, growing up in Oregon. Yeah. Oh, oh, you did, or did, you always got a mess of fish, Kate, fishing with her dad. Karen. I like that. That sounds very indigenous people. You catch it and then kiss it and then release it. Thank you, fish. Thank you, spirit of the fish. Okay. Oh, that's lucky. That's a fish story right there. That's called poaching fish in a different way. Watch out. How fun is that, Elaine? They're Catholic fish. Commercial salmon. I'm reminded of Don Thompson. If you visit Don Thompson, what does he have on the wall? He went up to the Boundary Waters, so he's got fishing stories. Nope. Oh, Trinity, were you going to say something? No. She wants me to tell the story of my carp when I caught my carp. Okay. So it was about a 30-pound carp. Oh my, 30 pounds carp. And it took us, I would say 45 minutes to bring it in. But when I brought it in, I caught it on the back fin. It wasn't even around the head. And to this day, I don't even know how it stayed on the hook. But the story was like, I just said it was going on a roller coaster ride, and that's the reason why I caught on my hook. It had a lot of fun, didn't it? Yeah, it was crazy. Like, it's a 1 in a million chance of catching a fish that way, especially on a dinky pole with reeling it in and not tearing the fin. It was great. Well, carp reminds me of my homeland. We always land of the carps, the Wapsipinicon River. So, well, great stories. And of course, the Bible, full of fish stories. And the big one is Jesus walking along the shoreline and calling the disciples. And the disciples, first disciples, Peter, um, James, John, Andrew, Peter and Andrew, James and John, they were IT professionals. No, they were not. They were fishermen. So, and then Jesus calls them on that shoreline and he says, I will make you fish for people. Yeah, men, people. So, epic Bible story. And so here's another one, and it's found at the tail end of the Gospel of John. And this one has fishing, and then it has like a miraculous catch of fish aspect to it. And if you looked at the Bible study, it's kind of fun to compare this story at the end of John with a story in Luke chapter 5, how Luke tells the call story. So just some details there. It's a super fun story. So, it gets wheels turning about, what is it about John? And why does John tell this story in a particular way? And it also just makes me think about Jesus. And who is Jesus? Who is Jesus in your headspace? And do we need a little headspace cleaning about who Jesus is? I think sometimes Jesus has kind of a bad reputation, or there's a part of us that thinks Jesus is judging us and Jesus is accusing us, and we have a guilty conscience, and Jesus is the one that's very punitive. That's not the Jesus of the Gospel of John. I mean, think about this story. Some disciples are out there, and doesn't that sound like Peter's like, I think I'm going to go fishing. Everybody else is like, ooh, can I go? Can I go? They go, not having a great day. And then there's Jesus on the shoreline. And once again, Jesus is not recognized. That's the whole thing. How often does Jesus walk unrecognized among us? And I love imagining. I mean, think about who Jesus is. He's not on the shoreline going, guys, you're doing it all wrong. No, that would be humans that we know, right? And this is why it's like, ugh, you got to be wary. I picture Jesus on the shoreline so full of love and watching them struggle and then kind of analyzing, what are they doing? What are they doing? And then I love how he verifies, guys, are you catching anything? Again, not accusatory, verifying the situation. How's it going? Yeah, not going great. And then he says, how about casting the net over there? And then following that guidance, they have this plenitude of fish. But the story doesn't end there. They have a whole mess of fish. I think it's more than a mess of fish. We need a new noun, counting noun, for how much fish they had. A miraculous mess of fish. And they're hauling it, trying to get to the shore. The nets don't break. And they realize, oh, it is the Lord. Does the story end there? What has Jesus been doing? He has a hibachi. He's been grilling. And he says one of the best lines in the whole Bible, come have breakfast. He says, come have breakfast. That's who Jesus is. Is that wonderful and joyful and awesome? Is that your view of Jesus, that Jesus is the one that is lovingly watch you? Maybe you're struggling, maybe it's not going well, whatever. Jesus is the one there. He's not going to do the job for you, but he's there. We talked about accompaniment last week, and in a gracious, merciful, kind way, offers guidance, and somehow it goes well. But then he's the guy making dinner. Think about it. It's not just this story. The Gospel of John has such a beautiful depiction of Jesus that's a little bit different. I mean, all the Gospels, wonderful. John has a different path, different stories. Way back, John chapter 2. Do you remember the wedding? What happened at the wedding? They ran out of something. Wine. Did Jesus say, well, you shouldn't be drinking wine? Is that what he said? No. What did Jesus do? He made sure there was more wine. He talked, yeah, his mom was, he got guidance from a wise woman and together. 2, John 4, he was with the woman at the well, and he offered living water. John 6, bread and fish again, a plenitude of bread and fish. And then he talked about being living bread, being manna. And later, he was a good shepherd, chapter 10, ready to feed his sheep. All these stories, and then today, cooking on the beach, Jesus is like Top Chef. He's there with food and nourishment for his people. Is that your idea of who Jesus is? Jesus is so ready to feed, to party, to make sure that you are okay. Then I think, why does John lift up these stories not told in the other Gospels, about who Jesus is? And then I think John goes there because his first audience, they were afraid. They were afraid, and they were still called to do Jesus' work. Fear and call. I think a lot of John's writing addresses fear. And when we are afraid, I think it's super helpful to have a picture in our brain to calm us down and remember Jesus is the one feeding us. Jesus is the one at the party with us. Jesus is the one in the struggle with us, with nurture. Fear is calmed by remembering who Jesus is. And if you are fearful, hold in your brain that image of Jesus on the beach, ready to help you, and breakfast. Breakfast is ready. What's your favorite breakfast, by the way? That's another question of the week. Anything you want to throw out there? What's an awesome breakfast in your estimation? Lucky Charms. Okay, what else? Bagel and lox. That would be fish, yeah. What's that? Scrambled eggs and sausage. Venom? Okay, eggs, tomatoes, peppers. Hash browns and gravy. French toast. Pancakes. That's Jesus. When you are afraid, can you hold that in your head? That's who Jesus is. That's the voice to listen to when you are afraid. We are afraid. It's a real thing. And also we are called. I'm going to stick with that fear thing. The disciples in John, I looked up fear and when were they afraid. The disciples, when fear popped up, they were afraid of other people. We read about this a couple weeks ago. Remember when they were locked in the house and they were afraid of other people? They were afraid of religious authorities. And several other times when they were afraid of religious authorities who they saw as oppressive and tyrannical and bullies. They were afraid. So it's a justifiable fear for many different reasons. So John knew they were afraid. And I thought, we can relate. Sometimes we're afraid of other people legitimately and how they behave. So I was thinking more about, when I'm afraid of people. And what came to me today is when I am afraid of people, I experience them as being oppressive. They're doing something oppressive. And then what came to me this week was they are oppressed. The people who oppress others or maybe make me feel oppressed, they're oppressed. They are oppressed. And I took that, I thought, they are shackled. And when they say things that are oppressive or tyrannical or mean or bullying, they are just shaking their chains, trying to make you afraid. When that happens, they are just shaking the chains of their oppression. So, don't be afraid. I know people are scary, but the gospel, the Bible gives us tools to override fear. And one of those tools is love. I'm going to go there shortly. But a reason John wanted the disciples to overcome fear is because they had work to do. They had jobs. They had a call. And fear thwarts their ability to serve and to love, which is Jesus needed them to get on the stick and not just be, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. They needed to work through their fear. And that's all of us. I'm not going to denigrate fear. We're humans, we have fear. But how do we work through our fear and so that we can fulfill our call to Jesus Christ, the call to fish for people? We have a call to love, a call to serve all over the place in John. Well, a final verse hit me. It is in with the Johannine literature. So there's the Gospel of John, and then there's letters of John 1, 2, and 3. And they have a shared worldview. So I thought, here's a neat verse to close on. 1 John 4:18. Perfect love casts out fear. Perfect love. So perfect love, huge topic. We talked about it before, especially Gospel of John. Perfect love of Jesus Christ. And that perfect love we meditate on. We're called to practice it, called to wash feet, love everyone so that they will know that we're Jesus' followers. So that's what we're supposed to do, that perfect love. And love casts out fear. Wow, what a tool in fear. And then I couldn't resist that word, casts, wink, wink. Casts. Maybe that's a way we fish for people. We cast out. We're called to cast out love. And it's hard to do. We work through our fear, but we can work through our fear and then cast out love. Oh, we just need to cast more love. Well, I'll let one of the fishing videos have the last word today. So they talked about, catching a mess of fish. And life is messy. Life is messy. Life has fear and life has call, and it's messy. And we are called to be courageous when there is fear. Like, that is a thing. And that woman that was holding up the fish, she also said, don't wear anything you don't want to get dirty. John needed that advice today, didn't he? Anyway, and that's life. That's life. Don't wear anything that you don't want to get dirty. Life is messy, but it is full of joy. The joy of Jesus Christ on the beach with breakfast. And it's possible to hold that all together and live a life of love and service. To God be the glory. Amen.